Hey everybody, Meinke from MLive.com, joined by Nate Atkins. We are back to work, unfortunately, after the Thanksgiving break. Very unexpected, I would say, topic of conversation today. Jim Caldwell was asked, he presided over, he's obviously with the Lions now, 7 comeback wins already this year. That ties an NFL record from the 2009 Colts, a team that he also happened to coach. And he was asked about it today, and he had mentioned he had compared Peyton Manning and Matthew Stafford. He said Peyton Manning is obviously heading to the Hall of Fame, and Matthew Stafford is on his way. ... He kind of walked it back maybe just a little bit after that, but definitely left the door open of he thinks Matthew Stafford is on his way perhaps to being in that conversation for the Hall of Fame. What's your take on that, Nate? How realistic do you think that is?
Well, the first part of what he said is obviously not debatable. I mean, Peyton Manning is definitely headed to the Hall of Fame, but it's not because of 7 comeback victories in one season. So I think that's the big difference here, is that this is a huge projection, and it's hard to talk about, is he on his way, is he not, because certainly the Matthew Stafford of a few years ago, even first half last year, I mean, I think that it really would have taken people off guard then. And now you're seeing him in a system that's playing perfectly to what he can do. It's limiting his mistakes, but you want to see, he's got to be more prolific than what's, throughout the course of the entire game rather than just in fourth quarter comebacks. It's a lot bigger than that.
I would contend, if you look at what Stafford has done in his career, I think he's been plenty prolific. And I think that's actually his best case for an MVP candidacy. I mean, he was the fastest quarterback to 20,000 passing yards, fastest quarterback to 25,000 passing yards. For a quarter, he hit 100 quarterback games this year. He had the most passing yards of any quarterback in history at that benchmark. If you look at quarterbacks who have played at least 100 games, he's averaging the second most yards per game in the history of the NFL. I believe it's only Drew Brees who is ahead of him. So in terms of the aggregate production, it's there. He's done some stellar things. He has the 5,000-yard passing season, something only 4 other guys have ever done, 4 or 5, I believe. So, I mean, the numbers are there. What's lacking, I think, in his resume is the playoff and the postseason success, and that's something. I mean, quarterbacks more than any other position are measured by not wins and losses to an extent, but certainly championships. And he hasn't won so much as a division title, let alone a Super Bowl. He hasn't won a playoff game.
Right.
We were talking about a stat here today. Y.A. Tittle and Sammy Baugh are the only quarterbacks ever to make the Hall of Fame without winning a playoff game. Both of them played before 1960. Okay, so this is something he has to do. But I do believe that it's not as unrealistic as some think. He had the numbers are there, which is probably the hardest thing to do. Going forward, he just has to have the team success, the playoff success, make a Super Bowl. I know it's difficult, and it's the Lions and everything, but think about their history. 58 years since their last title. They've won 1 playoff game in 58 years. And if Stafford ends up being the quarterback who takes them to a Super Bowl or to a couple of Super Bowls or even a couple of a couple of conference championship games, he will be a legend in this town. And if you pair that with the production he's already putting up, he would, I think, put himself in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to come down to wins and all that. And he still has a losing record in his career as a starter. So we're projecting really far here in talking about overall success in wins. And it can change in a hurry. I mean, maybe they become a playoff team and he starts winning those, and we start to forget about the fact that it didn't happen in the first half of his career. And you're right, there are raw numbers there. A lot of them are there. I still think it's, the NFL's speeding up as a passing league to where other guys are going to start to have a lot of those same arguments. And so, he's got 1 season with more than 32 passing touchdowns. I think that if he stays in the course he's on with Jim Bob Cooter, he's going to start beating that. So he's on a nice path in terms of what he can do, where he is now, and obviously the talent level is there. But a lot of it's going to come down to, can his team give him a chance to win those kind of games? Because there's going to be a lot of guys to compete with that he's playing against now, that he's going to be playing with in the future, and they're going to have opportunities in the playoffs, and he needs to have those opportunities. So a lot of it's not in his hands in terms of that, but also obviously a quarterback can control some of that, and he's in a position right now to try and get a division title and get there.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the victim of. So he's 49-55 in his career. People love to talk about the losing record, and that's certainly there. And he had major inconsistencies early in his career, but there are different reasons for inconsistencies. It can be a talent. I've never really thought it was a talent issue. I mean, maybe maybe he was a little unrefined as a passer, certainly as his risk taking. I thought that could have used some altering early in his career, and it's happened in the past couple of years. Give him credit for that, but he had so much instability around him in terms of coaching, in terms of talent. He had a good offensive line for a year or two, but really terrible offensive lines throughout most of his early parts of his career.
Right.
He's had very little rushing game. I don't think he's ever had a 1,000-yard rusher in his career, or maybe one, Reggie Bush. I think he's had 1,000-yard rusher in his career behind him. So there's been a lot of other factors too for the Lions' losses, not just a Stafford talent issue. Now you put more stability around them, you get a better scheme, players who are executing better. I mean, you look at the Lions now, they're still not a perfect offense. They have one of the league's worst rushing games, and he's still winning these games and finding ways to gut them out. And I think if he continues to do this, if he continues to assemble these fourth quarter comebacks, I mean, he's got 27 and 104 games now. That's an unbelievable rate, especially for a guy who went through as much losing as he did early in his career. If he continues to do this and he takes it into the postseason and wins games there, and you pair that with the production, I just think he would build a legacy that's very unique to Detroit and would help him with the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. And some guys play just as well late in their career as they did earlier on. We're going to see that this week when they go up against the Saints and Drew Brees. So he's got a lot of time left.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing Tom Brady at age 39 play the best he's ever played, and Stafford's got a decade till that. So it's a far off conversation. I think it's really hard to have right now. But I do.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you, Jim. No, but I think the guy we'll see this week in Drew Brees is a perfect example of what you're talking about. The modern quarterback who puts up big numbers, and maybe that would have been enough for a different quarterback in a different era. But now you move into an era where guys are putting up huge yardage numbers. You have to do something beyond that. To build the Hall of Fame case.
But the great thing with Drew Brees, I mean, you're looking at him, the first few years of his career, I mean, if anyone made that comment back then, you would have called him crazy. I mean, the Chargers gave up on this guy to go for Phillip Rivers, and he went to an organization in the Saints that had almost no, team history in terms of winning in the postseason, but he gets into a system where he's got Sean Payton calling the plays, and he stays with one city for a long time, leads them to the playoffs, wins that magical Super Bowl post-Katrina, and his legacy is completely flipped. So the opportunity is there for Stafford because the talent is there. We're seeing him right now in a system that's really playing to what he can do well, but does that last 15 years or 10 years or whatever it's done for Peyton Manning or Drew Brees or Tom Brady? That's the big projection that we're waiting on, I think.
Matthew Stafford, Hall of Fame. We might have been hitting the eggnog a little hard over the weekend. We'll be back at it this week. Those Lions prepare to play the Saints. For Nate, I'm Kyle. We are MLive.